Good evening, afternoon, night, morning, whenever you find your way to watch or listen to this podcast. Hardware is back for another week in November after a week off due to some delays due to work and some technical difficulties. We're back after 1 week hiatus. We're talking the Bednarik Award as well as college football. And heck, it's D3 rivalry week. What a time to be alive. Joining me always is my pal and good friend, Jackson. How we doing, Jackson?
Doing good, man. Doing good, man. Excited for another great week of college football, and I mean that quite literally. Sunday and Monday is now the only days of the week that we don't have college football, as we are all enjoying action, I'm sure, right? All across the country. So forget election coverage on this Tuesday night. Go ahead and or the NBA or whatever's on Wednesdays. Just enjoy some good old fashioned action.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's not to love? And there's some games with bowl implications tonight. We have Toledo and Ball State, where I mean Toledo can, I think, clinch their at least clinch or come close to clinching the MAC West, and Ball State can become bowl eligible. Same thing with Eastern Michigan and Akron. Eastern Michigan has a good chance of becoming bowl eligible as we speak, playing against 1-8 Akron. I have not checked the score of that one though. But yeah, just a lot of great football on almost all days of the week. Well, pretty much all days of the week,
If
with Monday Night Football and everything. So
if you're listening to this, you already know the results, so please let us know what they were in the comments. So
yeah, I mean, in the comments or by the time this releases, I'll get off my phone and end up looking at the score anyway, as I'm about to look up right now. Looking at because you guys know I love bowl games, but yeah, just another great week of college football. And we're ready to dissect the awards even more. So well, before we do that, we have our HBCU Pigskin Showdown Player of the Week to watch. Jackson, who do you have for your HBCU Pigskin Showdown Player of the Week?
I am for my HBCU Pigskin Showdown Player of the Week, Zach Leslie, the wide receiver from North Carolina A&T. He is a grad student, which is also qualifying. It's not just seniors that can play there. Versus Campbell a couple weeks ago, 4 receptions for 124 yards, 2 touchdowns, as well as a 2-point conversion. Honestly, as a team, that was a really impressive effort coming back from an 18-point deficit, right? Kind of looked like the Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming back from a big deficit to beat the Vegas Raiders. Sorry, had to throw in a rare Jags W. Like I said, graduated in 2020, right, in sports science. So he was graduating, and then he actually tore his Achilles in 2021, which a lot of times, like, oh, in your career, man, like, you already graduated, you're playing college football, and you had a major injury that usually knocks you out for a year. I think it really just speaks to his dedication, determination that he did end up coming back and is playing arguably better than ever. One thing that I really like about Zach, he's always willing to play inside or outside. I don't think it's really a knock at all that he's like not considered like a quote unquote true X receiver, right? He's not always lined up on the outside to the far left. I think it just shows his willingness and versatility and scheme that whatever the team needs him to do, he's willing to do. Omar, we've talked a lot about guys who make their money in either yards after contact or if it's with their speed or whatever it is. I think he has a really rare combination of height. With height comes great wingspan, right? And also a catch radius. He has a great height, enough speed to outrun guys, and he really has the toughness and contact balance to break as many tackles as he needs to. Man, he makes 50-50 balls, 80-20 balls, and it's just really fun watching Zach play, hoping that Coach Williams and Coach Grove can get him invited out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those invites are coming in droves. I mean, it's almost hard for me to retweet every single one of the invites that are coming. In fact, a couple of our former players of the week, in Larry Harrington and Jared Halsey, both accepted their invites to the game. So, maybe it's us, maybe it's or maybe Coach Williams, Coach Grove already had a grasp on them. I want to think I'm pretty sure it's the latter, but for our self-esteem, we'll take some credit for that because if you saw them
I'll
too.
take the credit. Absolutely. I definitely pointed these guys out. So
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they saw it. Coach Grove and Coach Williams saw it. I mean, they retweeted each of the posts and everything. So I'm going to go with someone that has not been invited at the time of this airing. at least as I know of. Kentucky State, one of my favorite Division II programs, my favorite non-FBS programs, because they run the triple option out there in Frankfort, Kentucky. And Shaquan Oliver, like Vanessa Williams, he saved the best for last and had 21 carries for 99 yards and 3 touchdowns, a graduate student who transferred from Northern Illinois. And yes, he plays fullback, but there is precedent to fullbacks playing in the HBCU Pigskin Showdown, as Brett Silv won the MVP award last year in the inaugural game and even caught a touchdown pass. So again, Jackson, like you say, you can't catch, you can't play. Not, I mean, maybe he'll catch a pass or two. He has 2 catches for 3 yards. Of course, playing a fullback and option scheme, you're not going to get thrown the ball much. But the thing with me is, like, as the game of pro football and college football spreads out even more, as you see more one back sets, more sets, I guess, with H backs in lieu of fullbacks, there's going to be the need by the goal line in third and short situations of backs who can get you a yard or two. And Shaquan Oliver fits the bill. I mean, he is a guy that has a nose for the end zone. He's not the flashiest runner on the season. He has 120 carries, 470 yards, but 12 touchdowns. That's a touchdown every 10 carries. Of course, the opportunities are going to be there running a triple option offense, but he's reliable. In the year before, it was no different. 67 carries, 7 touchdowns. So Shaquan Oliver, I see a guy like Shaquan Oliver, and me being a USFL guy, because I kind of anticipate NFL teams overlooking a guy that plays fullback in an option scheme at the Division II level. I kind of see him landing in the USFL, and I see a guy like that. He reminds me of Darius Victor from the New Jersey Generals. Just a power back with this good lower body strength. A bit on the shorter end, but not on the smaller end, and just a guy that can just get you those yards you need. I mean, the Generals were a team that was powered by the run game, especially their inside run game, and I can see Shaquan Oliver really adapting well to a run game like that. But hopefully, Coach Williams, Coach Grove, you invite another fullback from Kentucky State. You didn't regret it last year, so invite Shaquan Oliver, please.
Absolutely, man. And I'm just looking him up. It looks like he was actually running back for Northern Illinois in the past couple of years.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you mentioned that. But yeah, just something that I thought was interesting. Omar, you said Kentucky State is one of your favorite Division II programs. Are you aware of their mascot name? Because it is one of the more unique ones that I've seen.
Yeah, the Thoroughbreds. No, I'm certainly
All
aware
right.
of the Thoroughbreds.
Apparently, this is common knowledge that I wasn't aware of. So good to know. Definitely know. We will go ahead and move into our main portion of the program, talking about the Butkus Award. The Butkus Award does go to the nation's top linebacker. Historically, it is more Power 5 centered, right? This year, it really only 2 Group of 5s represented, being UConn and Cincinnati. But Omar, do you want to kind of run through these names? We do have the semifinalists already, so it's down to 12 guys that we know are a possibility to win it. You want to go through them? And
Yes, absolutely. So the 12 names that we have Jack Campbell from Iowa, Servassier Dennis from Pitt, Juman Dennis Johnson from Georgia, Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State, Davian Henley from Wazoo, Mikel Jones from Syracuse, Jackson Mitchell from UConn, DeMarvion Overshone from Texas, Ivan Pace from Cincinnati.
One point about Demarion Overshone that I did want to point out, he's actually a converted safety turn linebacker, which I think is something that's really intriguing. It's a trend that you're seeing, not necessarily of safeties becoming into linebackers. It's actually usually the other way around from what I understand, but we're seeing these linebackers and safeties, like, it's really like the position is very blended. Gone are the days where it's like 2 distinct positions. Like, there are a lot of shared responsibilities now, especially with outside linebackers and safety. So it's just something I wanted to point out. Definitely think it gives DeMarvion a leg up.
Absolutely. Just to continue the list, Owen Popo, Auburn, Ivan Pace, Cincinnati, Drew Sanders, Arkansas, Noah Sewell, Alabama transfer. That's right. Trenton Simpson from Clemson, DeAndre Square from Kentucky, and Henry To'o from Alabama. So those are your 12 semifinalists for the Butkus Award.
Absolutely, man. We'll go ahead and go over our do you want to do our top 3 guys for each, I believe?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you start, Jackson.
Yeah, you got it. I'm going to go ahead and go with my number 3 guy, I'm going to go with Jackson Mitchell, the inside linebacker from UConn. One of the reasons being that I'll just get to address the obvious at the top. If you are from UConn and a semifinalist for any award that is related to college football, you must be pretty darn good, because UConn is not. And it's something that, I mean, they are trending in the right direction, right? But it's something that I just want to recognize for, I don't want to say an industry, but a category of college football that is so Power Five centered. I think it's awesome that we have someone from UConn represented, and Cincinnati is on this list as well. They're en route to the Big 12, and obviously we're representing the college football playoff last year, so I don't want to say that it's too much of an outlier, but I just think that it deserves some attention. So anyways, long story short, Jackson Mitchell, the inside linebacker from UConn, had surgery in the spring actually, and still playing with a screw in his thumb. Just a classic, big cat football guy, right? One thing that I love about him, I know it'll really appeal at the next level. He plays special teams as well. He's had 73 special team snaps all year, whether that's on kickoff coverage, punt return coverage, whatever it is. Very versatile in this game, right? Obviously, the majority of his playing time comes inside the box, but he also has 53 snaps so far in the year on defensive line. Honestly, I think that does make a lot of sense for him though, because he is making his money, although there isn't a lot of NIL money with Connecticut, I guess, but he's making his money in really the run stopping, right? He's much better of a run defender, a rush defender than he is against the pass. Really could improve a lot of his pass rushing skills. Actually, he is better in coverage than he is against the pass, but he shines the most in the run. Just one of those guys, like, man, he's tough. Like he's not going to be denied. Lots of turmoil that he's been through in the last few seasons at UConn. Just a special guy, and a guy that's really fun to watch. I'll go ahead and go with my second guy, Mikel Jones, the outside linebacker from Syracuse. A fun, interesting fact about him: he actually went to IMG Academy in Florida, which is one of the best high schools in the nation. Made the news the other day because they were blowing out a team like 92-0. It was a Canadian high school, and the game got called at halftime because it was just so out of hand, which is something you don't really see for Syracuse recruits, a powerhouse high school in Florida, right? Man, the best thing about him is in pass rushing, just some elite get off, like just so good at that and timing the snap. To give you an idea of his speed, he's probably one of maybe a couple people in the world that can say he's sacked Malik Willis twice. Definitely something he can put on his football resume when it comes draft time. Man, whenever I watched him, like, just reminded me so much of Jamal Adams. He's like, it turns out he's like the exact same height and weight, like down to the like 10-pound difference on there in the same height. So we've seen, like we talked about, some outside linebackers and safeties kind of blend together. I think that hybrid role is something that's perfectly cut out for him, kind of either a blitzing safety or just an outside linebacker that is a smaller but an edge rusher because of his elite get off, and can also be used a lot in pass coverage. I'll go ahead and go with my top guy though, Davian Henley, the Washington State linebacker. He's a fifth-year senior in Nevada transfer. In Nevada, 0 sacks his entire career. He already has 4 this year. He leads the team with 42 solo tackles and has 24 more total tackles than the second place on the Washington defense. He's a phenomenal blitzer. He's great at dissecting schemes. You can tell he spends a lot of time in the film room. Like, I remember when we interviewed Elvin De La Rosa, man, like, I mean, you could just tell when you're watching film, like when guys pop off, you can tell they spend a lot of time behind the projector. And man, like he's one of those guys. He's special. He's a phenomenal transfer portal get. And look forward to seeing Davian Henley hopefully finish out the year strong at Washington State, right? I know the season hasn't been what they hoped, but I mean, you'll definitely be hearing his name around April.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think we have very similar lists, honestly. But it's just hard. There's 2 group of 5 guys on this list. I'd like to think this is the year that a group of 5 player wins it for the first time ever, but I'm inclined to believe that it won't happen. So for my 3 guys, starting off the bottom 3, I got at number 3, excuse me. At number 3, I have Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. And this is coming from a writer's perspective. I think that he'll be chosen. I think he'll win the award, but for me, he's number 3 because 80. He's got 85 tackles as of this airing, 8 tackles for loss. He had 13 tackles last weekend. Probably Ohio State's grittiest game until the Michigan game. The 21-7 win over Northwestern. Really, again, that might have been his Butkus Award moment where the Ohio State offense struggled. The conditions were incredibly horrible. Evan Hull for Northwestern ran the ball a million times, it seemed like, but Eichenberg, was the heart and soul of that defense in that defensive battle. And now it might be weird to say that, a Butkus Award semifinalist would have, their shining moment, signature moment to win the award against a 1-8 team. But it just felt that way too, just given, the conditions of the game. So I got Eichenberg for the body work. And potentially too, if Eichenberg and the Ohio State defense shut down Blake Corum on Thanksgiving weekend, then he has a very legitimate case at number 1, just given the season that Blake Corum is having and the powerful Michigan run game. For number 2 for me, I have Jackson Mitchell from UConn. And again, you hit it on the head with Jackson Mitchell, just the way he plays the game, his versatility, his stats over 100 tackles already. At the time the semifinalist list was published, he was the only guy on the list with over 100 tackles. His signature Butkus Award moment happened the week before the list was dropped against Boston College, holding that Boston College offense, an offense that had Zay Flowers, or helping hold, I should say, because football is a team sport, helping hold that offense that Zay Flowers, Phil Dracovic, 1,000-yard rusher last year in Pat Garwo. Just an offense that people had so much high hopes for this past year. Holding that offense to 3 points, beating Boston College for the first time ever. So huge for the program. And again, it's like the offense didn't really do UConn many favors. It was a 13-3 game. And it just seemed like Jackson Mitchell and that defense really came to the forefront, really started, I guess, really put UConn back in the national spotlight again, or I guess at least starting to again with bringing them to 4-5 and win over Boston College. But with the most tackles and probably the heart and soul of the best story in FBS college football right now, I got to put Jackson Mitchell number 2. Number 1 for me is Ivan Pace. At the time of the award semifinalist list publishing, Pace had 16 tackles for loss and 82 tackles. He had 14 tackles in his last game, so 96 tackles, and he has 18 TFLs. He's got the best combination of just being a guy that wreaks havoc in the backfield, but is also all over the place in the open field as well. So he covers every inch of grass on the field as a linebacker, and that's just the best combination, I think, just for any linebacker to have. The impact he has is probably the biggest of anybody on this list. Excuse me. And again, I think Pace is aided by the fact that Cincinnati forced Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant last year. They had some studs on defense. Everyone knows that, you play Cincinnati, you're going to play a stifling defense. That's the brand of football they play. It kind of reminds me of a 2015 Temple, where you had Tyler Matakevich win I think it was the Bednarik Award, where it's like you wouldn't expect a guy from Temple to win that award, but because he's associated with that tough defense, that brand of football, it just helps a lot. So I got Ivan Pace winning the Butkus Award. And then just to recap, 2 and 3, got Jackson Mitchell at 2, and I got Jack Eichenberg at 3.
It's hard to go wrong with any of these guys on this list, right? Like they're all that do such a phenomenal job of what they do. That's why they're being recognized. One thing I want to point out about a guy that we haven't really talked about too much, or I haven't at least, Servosia Dennis, the middle linebacker from Pitt, right? He wasn't on my top 3, but he was like probably the first guy outside of that. It kind of worked out perfectly. The only coach's film I had access to from this year was versus Tennessee, which is by a mile the best offense that Pitt has faced all year. Which to be fair, it was graded as his worst performance by PFF, and it's hard not to be with that very spread out Tennessee offense. But man, it just really showed his great sideline to sideline range, what you were talking about a little bit earlier, cover every blade of grass, right? He's a really good tackler. They used him a lot in coverage. They used him a lot as a robber or in Tampa 2 defense, right? Violent but could improve in other areas of the run game. So it's just something that I noticed. Another guy that I wanted to talk about just really briefly, You talked about Jack Campbell for a little bit, right? I mean, just like a classic middle linebacker, right? Tremendous size, top instincts, good straight ahead speed, all that from Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl. And then last thing, Trenton Simpson, our candidate from Clemson, very, very good blitzing linebacker. I haven't really seen enough of him in coverage to have an informed opinion, but man, the upside for his blitzing talent is tremendous.
Absolutely. You mentioned Campbell too. I mean, Campbell, if Iowa's offense hadn't held them back as much as they do, I think Campbell would be a bigger finalist. But the fact that he plays on an Iowa defense that carries that offense so much, I mean, at least not last week against Purdue. The offense looked amazing against Purdue. But for much of the season, the Iowa offense has been probably like one of the biggest stories in college football. I think Campbell deserves a lot of credit for, being the heart and soul of the defense of that defense. But again, I can't help but think that if Iowa were better, had a better record, that he'd be, discussed more in those discussions. But yeah, just talk about a classic Big Ten linebacker. It's really great to think about.
Absolutely, it is, man. If there's a conference that's known for physicality, it's the Big Ten, and that's only gonna continue that reputation when we add USC and UCLA, right? Surely that's not going to take anything away.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, you would hope not, but maybe it will. I mean,
I did see
each team their
something
own.
just completely unrelated besides the fact that it mentions USC that I wanted to point out that I thought was interesting. I'm sorry, this is very off topic. I just wanted to point it out. Alabama is the first preseason number one that has two losses now, or has multiple losses in the regular season since 2012 USC.
Wow.
Something I
Yeah,
thought I'd
that's
point out. So, man, we'll go ahead and go to our last portion of the program, our 10 games to watch. Omar, you want to start off with your first one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm dressed for the occasion, talk about America's greatest intersectional rivalry, the Notre Dame Navy game. Just a little history lesson about the Notre Dame Navy game. Back in World War II, colleges would start V-12 programs to train naval officers for World War II, and Notre Dame was in danger of closing. If not for the Navy opening up a V-12 program at Notre Dame, Notre Dame would have closed, and as a result, Notre Dame and Navy play infinitely until they decide to stop the series as a debt of gratitude for Notre Dame. So that's always my favorite tidbit about the rivalry. It's been played all over the place. For the first time since 2008, the game returns to Baltimore. Kind of counterintuitive, honestly, since the game's always played at a neutral site when Navy's the home team. For the first time since 1993, the game we broadcasted on ABC 12 Eastern, talking about a big noon kickoff. But for me, it's an interesting game because I think a lot of people are riding out Navy from making this a close game. If you look at last year's game, a Notre Dame team that went 11-1 in the regular season, 11-2 after the Fiesta Bowl. Navy stuck around with Notre Dame for a while. I believe the score was either 14-6 at halftime or 17-6 until Notre Dame busted the game open and won 34-6 in the second half. But Navy stuck around on the strength of their inside run game. Their fullback Isaac Ross had 22 carries for 73 yards, and Navy just kept running that inside run game. I believe if they have the same formula, they'll stick around against a Notre Dame team that's not as good as last year's team, as we all know. But again, they're starting Xavier Arline. Xavier Arline has only had a handful of starts before, and he's a better outside runner than their starting quarterback, Ty Lavatai. Last week against Cincinnati, he showed flashes of greatness, 12 carries, 87 yards. So I expect Arline to get a heavy dose of carries on the outside. And if they get the inside fullback game running, working, I think Navy can cover easily. I think they're 19-point underdogs. I'll have to check that really quick. Again, they're 19-point underdogs to Notre Dame. Of course, Navy has not beaten Notre Dame since 2016. We all know about the streak from 1963 to 2007, where Navy lost 43 years in a row, or 1964, 2007. Yes, Notre Dame is a 16.5-point favorite. I can see Navy covering easily. Hardware will be at that game. They'll be live at that game, aka in the second deck of M&T Bank Stadium. But we'll be live at that game. But just exciting. I mean, I'm expecting a close game. Navy played Cincinnati very close last week, and if they just ride the inside run game and let Arline make a couple plays, especially with his arm, Arline needs to make plays with his arm. In 3 years of playing quarterback, and I think has 4 career starts. Xavier Arline is only throwing the ball. Wait for it, drum roll, please. He's only thrown the ball for a total of 35 times. So he's obviously a way better runner than he is a passer. I just think that he needs to like blow the game open with some plays through the air. But Notre Dame Navy, 12 o'clock ABC for the first time since the Clinton administration.
So I'm sure there are going to be a handful of students traveling from both schools to the game. I think we should really confuse them all and put together like a really professional graphic of like doing a college game day style like camp out overnight to line up to possibly get a chance to be on the show, except the show is hardware instead of college game day. I think it would really confuse some people, and make it look really good. We can do like the little like fat heads or whatever it is they hold up with our faces on it. I think that would be tremendous, Omar. I'll join in virtually just like Lee Corso has the past couple weeks. So we'll do that. We'll put that together. We'll put our graphics team on that, aka me. So I'll go ahead and go with my first game of the week to watch. We can go with Oklahoma at West Virginia. Something that we talk a lot about on Bulls and Brews, right, is Bulls and Booze, is about these bowl game implications and what they have. Oklahoma's 5-4 right now, man. So obviously one win away from the bowl. I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Let's look at their schedule that they have left. They have at West Virginia. They have Bedlam versus Oklahoma State, which is at home, but it is against Oklahoma State. And then on the road at Texas Tech in Lubbock on Senior Day. If they don't win versus West Virginia this Saturday, man, I think it's very feasible that they do not make a bowl game at all. Oklahoma is a top 40 offense. I'll give them that. And it's like in every major category except for passing yards. But we've seen how West Virginia, how that defense can step up and how that crowd can affect games. We saw it against TCU, albeit it was a loss, right, against the number 4 ranked team. And we definitely saw it again in the win versus Baylor. For West Virginia to win the game, like I said, their defense is really going to have to step up. The crowd is going to have to step up. It is their true blue game where everyone in attendance is encouraged to wear blue, which hopefully gives the crowd a little bit more juice, right? One stat from this West Virginia defense I'd like to point out, they have 6 forced fumbles on the year, which is like a very good amount, I feel like. And I think I've always thought of forced fumbles as like a good indication of hustle, right? Like it's a hustle stat. Like how much are you attacking the ball? How much is that an emphasis? And there are like 5 different guys combining for 6 different forced fumbles. Like it's a whole mentality on the defense. So my only note for the West Virginia offense when they're on the road are on the field against the Oklahoma defense, right? Running back Justin Johnson is really West Virginia's only fully healthy running back. Tony Mathis has an undisclosed injury and CJ Donaldson has a leg injury. The running game is going to be very important to West Virginia if they want to take control of the clock and win this game. It's going to hurt without Tony Mathis and CJ Donaldson. So Justin Johnson's really going to be that X factor for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I feel like the Big 12 year in year out has the most parity of any conference because any given year, like you have 8 bowl teams out of 10, and I mean, we've just seen it all over the place. We had Kansas beat Oklahoma State despite having a bit of a slide. We had West Virginia pulled off. I think they beat Baylor a few weeks ago, and then Baylor coming out and beating Oklahoma last week, and then you can just name it all over the place. Even Iowa State this year in the off year has had their moments against conference foes. So again, that's a very good point about Oklahoma like not making a bowl. I mean, that's a school we thought would not only win the Big 12 but be a player in the playoff race for sure. Of course, they had injuries with Dylan Gabriel and having to start Davis Bevel for Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Didn't go as planned, but again, definitely a story worth tracking. But I gotta say,
48-0 wasn't as planned. I thought that's how Brent Venables like scripted it up.
Yeah, but I mean, I gotta say, some mid-tier bowl is gonna get lucky to get Oklahoma in like a year that they usually wouldn't. Whether it be my projections right now have them going to the Liberty Bowl right now. I have them going to Liberty Bowl. I don't think they've. It's been a long time since they appeared in that bowl for a very so.
Omar, have you seen that meme where it's like the girl that like doesn't like it and then like is intrigued of like Alabama versus Clemson in the Sugar Bowl? It's like not interested in like Alabama versus Clemson in the Citrus Bowl. It's like, oh, okay, I might watch that.
Well, I got so I mean, I
That's
also got
this year,
Florida on the
man.
other
Just
hand.
throw Oklahoma into that same mix.
Yeah, I have Florida as the opponent. I have Florida. I think this year's the year Florida makes the Liberty Bowl, honestly. It's not a bad thing. It's just they've never appeared in the bowl game, and like why not? I mean, you don't know when the next time you're gonna get Florida or Oklahoma. So
It's very
that
true. Two bowl games are going to be very lucky to have like two blue blood programs join their bowl games that usually aren't there. But yeah, man, I would like to see as a Florida fan. I just don't want to play in the state of Florida. Like, let's get out a little bit for once. Like
yeah.
let's not do the Gasparilla Bowl. Let's not do any of this. Like, man, let's have a little fun. Let's travel a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what bowl games are for. I mean, as an Army fan, I kind of wish that we just would not bowl in Texas, which is why the Independence Bowl is just such a great opportunity for this year. But it's not looking so good. But I still have faith. Going on to my next game, that's a good segue talking about academies. We got the Secretary's Cup, and that's Secretaries of the IES because we got the Coast Guard Academy against the Merchant Marine Academy. The Merchant Marine Academy has a very strong running attack, averaging 276 yards per game with their triple option offense, allowing less than 16 points per game as well. They're 5-3. Coast Guard is 3-1. They've been playing these two schools have been playing since 1949. The Secretary's Cup wasn't established until gotta look this up again, but I think it was until the 70s. And now they play for this on Veterans Day weekend or also Division III rivalry week. So this game every single year, it's kind of like the little Army Navy game on the East Coast. Two Division III schools, and there won't really be a playoff bid at stake here. But again, like if you love academy rivalries, the Secretary's Cup is the way to go. I mean, the Merchant Marine offense is rolling is just firing on all cylinders. Their quarterback Jeremiah Wong has 635 non-sack yards, and then he's throwing the ball a little bit for an option quarterback. He's got 9 touchdowns and 31 completions, so doesn't throw much, but when he does, it's effective. So watch out for Jeremiah Wong in the Merchant Marine Academy against Coast Guard. Coast Guard is allowing 195 yards per game on the ground on defense. So definitely a matchup to watch. Definitely a strength versus weakness there. But again, that game is going to be, gotta look at the broadcasting again. It's going to be online streamed, of course, but that game will be on ESPN 3. I don't think it's on ESPN 3 at 12 o'clock. So tune into the Secretary's Cup.
Honestly, Omar, I had no idea that was happening this weekend. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. How does it look? Is it like a neutral site? Is it a home and home? Kind of what's the deal with that?
Well, it's a home and home, but I would
Okay.
love for it to be a neutral site. I
That'd
mean,
be
it would
cool,
make
man.
sense. It would make sense if it was at Mikey Stadium, you know, and that's
Honestly,
something I've talked about.
that would actually make a lot of sense. That'd be a logistical nightmare trying to get on the base, but that would be
Would it though? Because they're service academies,
oh well, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Just if you're a casual fan, yeah, okay, never mind. I
I
guess
mean,
if there's
it's not a
any that
logistical nightmare for casual fans who in the Hudson Valley who watch Army every week. So it's like, you know,
yeah, because they don't know what true college football looks like. Poor people.
wow,
Gonna go
wow.
ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and go with my next game of the week to watch. I want to preface with I have no unique angle on this. This is just straightforward. Like I shouldn't really have to give any sort of explanation. UCF F Tulane. UCF with a convincing win right here that it could be a resume builder, especially with it being on the road. Tulane, they have a lot more to lose than they have to gain, right? Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, and Troy are at least in the AP rankings, the college football playoff rankings, like came out like an hour ago. I really haven't looked at them yet, but those are the three group of 5 teams that are behind UCF and Tulane in the poll. Man, someone's going to play a New Year's Six game from the group of 5, right? It is more than likely going to be one of these 2 teams, barring a rematch in the AAC championship. Honestly, I do kind of picture the winner of this going to that bowl game. So that's something to watch. And with this UCF offense versus Tulane defense, that's really the phase of the game to watch, just because it's the strength of both teams. Where UCF really should attack is the run game, right? Like Tulane is 70th in are ranked 70th in rushing defense, which is by far their worst category. UCF is the 13th ranked rushing offense, so they have a leg up in that. And especially when you're playing on the road, running the ball is always important anyway, right? So hopefully they take advantage of that, capitalize, and can get the road win.
Yeah, I mean, I think game day should have been in this one, but I mean, I have a follow-up question for this one because I think for me, after seeing the way that Ty J Spears has played the past couple weeks, the same with Mike Pratt, do you think either of those guys with a strong performance here could enter the Heisman conversation? Because Hendon Hooker had an off week. I think the perception of Stetson Bennett is he has so much talent around him, including Brock Bowers and the
I
run
think
game.
that is, yeah. Brock Bowers really should like be in the Heisman conversation right now with just how good he is, as well as like Kyle Pitts should have been in that conversation. I think Kyle Pitts was better, but
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
with the
man.
strong game,
What's up?
with a strong game, do you think that Ty J Spears or Mike Pratt can enter the Heisman conversation?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so personally. And like maybe they should deserve to like their name to be mentioned when we talk about the Heisman. I will say that. It's not gonna happen though. Like to be a group of five like candidate and like be part of the Heisman conversation, you really have to get the steam rolling like pretty early, right? Like we're wrapping up, like we're starting to get to that point where we're, looking at who's going to win the Heisman and all that. So it's like, or like have conversations of like who are the three standing there in New York, right? So personally, I don't think that they will with the strong game. Man, what when is it on? Because is there any like what's the time slot?
It's at 3:30. It's at
It's at
ESPN
three.
3:30. Yeah, it's a
Okay,
3:30 kick.
ESPN two, man. Like I don't see it, and I say that only because like these voters are not going to be watching the all 22. They're going to be flipping back and forth, or if they have a few screens, like have ESPN two on one of them. But I doubt this is going to be like the main point of focus. So, no, unfortunately, I don't think so. But they should.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, at least for the case for Ty J Spears, there's no running back that's playing better in the country right now than Spears. The past 3 games, especially. Okay, I should say for the past 3 games, there's no running back playing better than Ty J Spears. He's got 56 carries for 400 433 yards, averaging a high. The volume's not there, but he's a home run hitter. He's got 209 receiving yards and 17 catches. Michael Pratt, I mean, over 2,000 yards total, 19 touchdowns, 4 picks. Again, yeah, the stats aren't there, but again, Tulane. I mean, I feel like the case would be stronger if Tulane was undefeated. But
Yeah,
yeah,
then I can see it a little bit more. It's not so far fetched.
yeah, so I mean, again, just something I thought of too after seeing Ty J Spears just have a great game against Tulsa last week, 14 carries for under 57 yards. Going on to my next game, I'm going to showcase these Division III rivalries because again, it's the final week of the regular season. We got the biggest little game in America. We got Amherst versus Williams. These schools have been at each other since 1884, and even the founding of these schools was under some controversy as the founder of Amherst College, I believe, went down the road to Williams and started his own college back in the 18th century. So again, the blood, I guess the bad blood runs deep in this rivalry. This year it's a rough year for both programs. Both are at 2-6, but the Amherst defense is lights out. Allowing only less than 19 yards per game on defense. But the problem is the offense is kind of behind, averaging about 12 points per game. I don't expect a lot of points in this one. This game will be a 12 o'clock broadcast on, I think, Nesson, the New England Sports Network, if you have it, if you live in the area. As for online, the online streaming options for that one will be, as I look that up, the online streaming options will be, there's option of watching the website. Yeah, you can watch it live on Amherst's website. So though it will be simulcast on the Northeast Sports Network. You got the Mammoths versus the Eeps. You got two pachyderm animals going against each other. It's great. Who knew you'd get a lesson in zoology talking about pachyderms?
No, I'm very curious if the stream on the Amherst website is it geared towards Amherst fans? Is it kind of like what we see like TNT and like CBS do for March Madness, where like at the Final Four you can watch like a Kansas broadcast or a Florida broadcast, or is it the generic one that just happens to be on the Amherst?
I'm pretty sure it's a generic one. Like I'm trying to see.
Probably.
I'm looking at both. I'm looking at both websites. Honestly, just gotta check Williams too, because honestly, it might be behind a paywall. If we're being completely honest, I wouldn't be
Oh
surprised if it is.
no.
I hope it's not. I hope it's not. But
Gotta
that's.
be
I mean,
kidding.
it is a well known rivalry. I'm looking for it. Like the Saturday's the 12th. Yeah, it's not on It's not on the upcoming sporting events on their page, but let's see about. Okay, I'm looking at Williams. I'm sure Williams has a stream. Williams has. They do also have a stream. They have a YouTube stream, and that looks to be a neutral party broadcasting this on the YouTube stream. So I'll probably have a screen going on at Notre Dame Navy, watching the biggest school game in America if things get out of hand. But yeah, just a great rivalry, just Amherst and Williams, great academic programs, or excuse me, great academic schools, part of the Little Ivies out in New England. It's just a great rivalry, and it's a nice appetizer for the Harvard Yale game in about 11 days. Yeah, 11 days actually.
Absolutely, man. I'll go ahead and go with my next game of the week to watch. Speaking of Yale, I'm gonna go with Princeton versus Yale. Omar, we have talked about how a lot of these games have to do with bowl implications and even conference races where, hey, if this team wins and this team loses and this is a tie and all this, right? Man, for Princeton and Yale, and that goes for all the other Ivy League schools as well, there is no postseason participation. In 1945, the Ivy League University president signed what's known as the Ivy Group Agreement, basically banning the Ivies from handing out athletic scholarships, which kind of had a domino effect and making it so no one can participate in the FCS playoffs, even though those didn't exist yet. Princeton is 8-0. Yale is 6-2 with only one conference loss, though. The final conference rankings are all that matter, man. Like there isn't even a conference championship. Yale would still be alive to be a conference champion, the pinnacle of success in Ivy League football, but it would make the Penn versus Princeton game next week a lot more interesting. No one would be a bigger Princeton fan than Yale if they won. But Princeton, on the other hand, they can't solidify a conference championship this week. So this isn't even necessarily a must-win game because they would have the tiebreaker. So that's something interesting to watch. Omar, you can correct me on anything if I'm wrong. You know a lot more about this than I do. But yeah, man, I just thought it was something interesting to point out that, hey, we're doing all this talk about how it affects December and January. Why aren't we talking about this? This is the end all be all for the Ivies.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you talk about the de-emphasis of football. The last Ivy League program to go to a bowl game, I believe, was the 1933 Columbia Lions. Went to the 1934
I
Rose
don't know
Bowl,
how you know that
upset.
off the top of your head, man, but hats to
They
you.
upset Stanford. Yep. I mean, it's actually a famous Rose Bowl. It's actually a pretty famous Rose Bowl. I think they won the game on a reverse.
Is
I
it the
think they
one
won.
that Andy Reid stole from Super Bowl 54 or whatever?
No, I highly doubt it. I think they're running single wing. I gotta check. But yeah, like it's interesting that you mentioned Yale because you look at who's always on the top of the Ivy League. Of course, it's Princeton. It's been Dartmouth the past years, but Dartmouth's really struggled. They're kind of in the middle of the pack this year, and Yale's really starting to roll. Yale last week dropped 69 points on Brown. I mean, the Brown defense just does not get better. It's kind of great that in a period of inconsistency, you have the consistent tradition of Yale dropping like insane amounts of points on Brown. I think last year it was like a 63 to 49 game last year. So at least there's that for tradition. But yeah, just a huge game. Before there was radio, before there was even a 20th century, Yale, Princeton, and Harvard were the blue bloods of college football. So and just to get back on that 1934 Rose Bowl, you have yeah, it's considered one of the biggest upsets in Rose Bowl history as Stanford, had a very good team, and they executed a trick play called KF-79 where the quarterback Cliff Montgomery spun and slipped the ball to Al Barabas, then faked a handoff to Ed Berminski, who ran the opposite direction, so reverse. But yeah, just
What
reading
was
off the
the
Wikipedia page.
1933 Stanford football team's on 3 consensus recruiting ranking? I'm curious.
Oh, they didn't have one, but they were nicknamed the
Oh,
Vowboys
darn,
because
man.
they
We didn't
vowed
have
never to
that
lose
back
to lose
then.
to USC. They vowed to never lose to USC, so they're called the Vowboys.
You know
But
what? Maybe in the 30s we didn't whine on Twitter when an 18-year-old picked where they want to go to college. Maybe we didn't do
that's
that
how it
either.
should be.
So
That's how it should be. We shouldn't whine. But yeah, just going to my last game, my last Division III rivalry. Just this one's also my bucket list of games to go to. We got the Manon Bell. We have Wabash versus DePauw. Excuse me. And this game actually has huge implications. Not just, of course, these schools hate each other. They've been playing since 1890, playing for this bell for a very long time. Two programs out of Indiana, but right now, DePauw is 8-1. Wabash is 7-2. It's kind of a unstoppable force meets the immovable object as the Wabash offense is averaging over 40 points per game. Their quarterback, Liam Thompson, has 3,300 yards in 9 games and 32 touchdowns. But the DePauw defense has been lights out, averaging less than 13 points per game, allowing less than 13 points per game. So this one is, if there was a college game day for Division III football, and it's interesting to me that college game day hasn't visited this rivalry because in 07 they visited Amherst Williams, the biggest little game in America, but they've never visited the Manon Bell game, which there's really not much happening on the week before Thanksgiving in terms of college football. So it would make perfect sense to go to this game, especially in a year like this. If USC and UCLA weren't playing that weekend, I could totally see it. But again, just another great rivalry in the heart of the Midwest in Indiana, the Victory Bell. And this one, I'm pretty sure this one is an online stream. I don't think there's a linear TV broadcast. Looking at the schedule for Wabash, let's see, it's going to be broadcasted on the Wabash College Video Network and the Indiana Sports or ISC Sports Network. So 2 streams. One of them's got to be free, I'm pretty sure. So the Manon Bell, played since 1890. What a great rivalry. Tune in.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, that wraps it up for me. Those were all my games of the week to watch. Obviously another great week that we always have, right? We don't have too many left, so enjoy it while you can. Omar, as we are recording this on a Tuesday night, I'll go ahead and let you get back to watching the Battle of the Bricks, right? Miami, Ohio versus Ohio. Didn't realize how much these two teams hated each other until watching tonight. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it's great. And I love those sharp Miami uniforms honoring the the
So
Oklahoma
nice.
tribe. Yep. I want
Yeah.
one. Honestly, I want one, it's great. Anytime there's a crossover honoring Native American culture in college football, I know Utah has done an amazing job honoring I think it's the Apache tribe. I think it's the Apache tribe or the Navajo tribe. They just do a great job honoring Native Americans with their uniforms. Now Miami, Ohio. I just love it. But
Omar,
yeah,
you're really giving me a layup to make fun of FSU, but I will not take it. So
I'm
I'm
glad. Hey, that's
uncomfortable.
character growth, Jackson. I'm glad. But until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul.